All right, it's Wednesday, 1:30. We're going to go to the phones, and Bill King, host from Nashville Sports Radio, the king of college football talk, joining us here on Halftime. Bill, we made it. It's September the 9th. You got big-time college football, theoretically, happening this weekend. So does that make you feel good? It has to.
Yeah, man. I'm ready, guys. I didn't really feel like last weekend or the games before really launched the season like this week does. So I'm fully emotionally invested starting with the games.
Did you watch anything from last weekend? I watched a little of the Arkansas State-Memphis game. I watched as much of BYU Navy as I could stomach before. It's just I didn't want to watch a murder on the television screen. It wasn't great football last weekend. It looked like teams that might have been able to use another week of practice. Did you watch?
I got in on the second quarter of the Navy game, which was done, and I was told don't rush home. I had a JV game I had to go to, and what was surprising to me was Coach Ken's a very good coach. Ken Niumatalolo at Navy. I've known him. I've talked to him many, many times. And I was shocked to hear him say they basically did nothing football-wise as far as hitting leading into that game. I mean, no preparation at all, which is confusing. If you feel like it's dangerous to do that in practice, why are you going to go play a game? What's the point? If you're not going to practice what a football game's going to present to you, which is hitting and blocking and tackling, why even schedule the game? It was very confusing, and they obviously didn't show up, literally, for that game.
Oh, it looked like they hadn't worked on tackling. I mean, BYU just ran right through them. I mean, there was no resistance whatsoever. So, the big story that happened last week, and I think it was right after our show was over Wednesday, was the transfer of not transfer, we're so used to saying transfer, the opt-out. Yeah. Or as Jeff Dantzler said yesterday, he quit. I saw Kirk Herbstreit said that decision alone caused him to change his SEC East champion prediction from Georgia to Florida. Do you think that losing Jamie Newman and going with a younger quarterback, either Daniels or Mathis, is that much of a drop for Georgia?
I don't know that he was the starting quarterback. We don't know that. I wouldn't change anything. Georgia wasn't going to be quarterback-centric, at least in the beginning anyways. Now, maybe it develops that way. But, no, I'm not changing anything. Georgia's got the best talent in the East. Florida can prove that wrong when they play and beat them. But until they beat them, I'm not switching that pick based on the quarterback. Now, if that was Jake Fromm coming out and opting out, maybe we've got a conversation. But that's not what happened.
So we've already had our first coaching move, but it was a move made by the coach, not by the school. Jay Hobson decided after last Thursday's loss to resign from Southern Miss. And it looked like he'd done fairly well at Southern Miss, which I guess is more of a stepping stone program than a place that you're going to rest for a while. I know Larry Fedora did that there. Todd Monken used it as a stepping stone. What kind of a program is Southern Miss, and what sort of coach do you think they're looking for next?
It's a solid program, through the years. I remember the year, it was really early 80s. I was in college, and they upset at Alabama, and Alabama, was the name back then, just like they are now. I remember that. The quarterback was a guy named Reggie Collier, pretty well-known quarterback at the time. Obviously, Brett Favre went there, but I think it's a solid program. Mississippi, per capita, not a real populated state as we know, but they overproduce players. You've got a very fertile JUCO system there, too. And there are players everywhere wanting to play. I think it's a program where if we're playing 12 games, it can go 8-4, maybe a little bit better. I mean, look, guys, you're not all that far from Memphis, and neither am I. Different directions. Memphis was terrible for so long, and now they are a fantastic program. So anything's possible at schools like that.
Speaking to Bill King here on Halftime, but want to go back to Georgia just for a second. We brought up Jamie Newman, and we talked about just where the program is or kind of what the expectation will be for Georgia this year. And I feel like we'd all agree Georgia's going to have a good year. But if it's like a a 7-win, 6-win, maybe an 8-win year. What do you think that vibe is going to start being around Kirby Smart, not necessarily being able to, quote unquote, get over the hump or try to maybe winning the big one?
Well, if regular season they go 9-1 and the losses at Alabama and then they rematch, I think everything's fine. Now, again, he's not under any duress.
No, absolutely, yeah.
But if they go 7-3, that's a bad year. I mean, that's you might as well say they went 5-5. There's really no difference, so you shouldn't be losing to those teams. They're a favorite over everybody but Alabama, and a solid favorite over everybody they ought to play. Yeah, the fans have become unglued. I don't know if you guys see this as much as I do, but there's a pocket of fans out there, an anti-Kirby Smart faction. It's mainly Alabama fans. And, boy, they blast him every day. I mean, he could do something good, and he gets blasted by them. So it's kind of interesting. And I don't know when Georgia – right now, Georgia fans are very loyal to him. I talk to them all the time. I have their pulse reading. But you're right. I mean, that thing could get flimsy if they underachieve this year.
Where do you think LSU will finish up this year? We've talked extensively also just about how much talent they've lost just going into the NFL and graduating, but also some of these key players opting out this year. Where do you see LSU finishing in the SEC West this year?
Probably third, maybe a tie for third, somewhere in there. They lost so much, as we've all mentioned so many times, but it's true. And they're breaking in so many new players. Now, let me give you a name to remember. They signed this kid out of Marietta, Georgia, Arik Gilbert, who is 6'5", 250, and he's going to be a receiver, kind of a hybrid tight end receiver. And he was recruited by everybody. An incredible athlete. One of the better athletes you will see coming out of high school anywhere, anytime. And apparently he is really flashing in camp. And I bet you we see him quite a bit. He's a big physical mismatch for most anybody. They'll be good because it's LSU, but they have to replenish so much that I think let's take that 7-3 number. I think that 7-3 number would be a good year for them this year.
Earlier last week, I believe it was late last week, earlier in the week, but we were talking about when the game times came out and different networks that are going to be hosting them. We started talking about like our favorite broadcasters that we like. I'm a big Joe Tessitore guy. I know Ty Richardson's a big Gus Johnson guy. I'm just kind of curious, and I'm also I like Kirk Herbstreit and the Chris Fowler duo on Saturday Night Football. Are you a Herbie Fowler guy, or is there a broadcast duo that you more lent into?
Well, you mentioned two there that I know well, and that's Joe Tess and Herbie. So I'm biased, but they're damn good regardless of my bias. It doesn't really matter. They're very good. One's an analyst, obviously. Another one's play-by-play. I think Gus, though, is my favorite. When it comes to play-by-play, I love Gus Johnson. Now, some tell me he's a little too hyper for them, and that's fine. But to me, he is fantastic. I absolutely despise Fowler, so I'd never mention him. Don't like him. Don't think he's good compared to the way they have him ranked and the way they have him featured. And I like that tandem of Gus Johnson. Who's the Colorado quarterback who's now with him on the college games?
Golly. I just blanked.
I can't remember who
I just
it
blanked
is.
on it. I know exactly who you're talking about, Bill. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, regardless, they are a very good duo. They are excellent. You know, Fox all those years, guys, wasn't very good. And when they would host the BCS championship game, it was just garbage broadcast compared to ESPN. Their pregame show with Urban Meyer and the guys, I think rivals Game Day. Now, it's a different style. It's more pure football, so everybody's got their style. But Fox has come a long way last couple of years. And not only their broadcast teams, but their pregame stuff is a lot better than it used to. It used to be not watchable or non-existent. Remember those shows they put on about the BCS matchup before the game, a week or two before, a month before the game? Those things were terrible. They'd have like Jimmy Johnson on there, Barry Switzer. Oh, my God. I bet you those guys hadn't watched one game the whole year when they put them on those broadcasts.
That's what it feels
I
like.
like
with,
Chris Fowler, though. I kind of get where you're coming from, but I like Chris Fowler.
Yeah, a lot of people do. I don't. We had one classic run-in that fixed that. So.
Well, that'll usually be enough to do it. Hey, Bill, before I let you go, did you see this thing that the ACC basketball coaches are trying to convince the NCAA for something that they're calling an all-inclusive NCAA tournament, which I thought meant they were going to hold the tournament at like Club Med or something, but apparently it means everybody plays in the tournament. Everybody gets in.
Couple of things, guys. I've got a lot to say about it, and I know we're crunched for time. I've been saying forever, if you really wanted to fix this thing and make the regular season actually important, where people would actually watch college basketball regular season, cut back in the tournament. Don't add. Cut it back to like 48. Now, I know they'll never do that. But you really want to shake it up. Take teams away. Look, nobody gives a rip except the few choice college football fans that just will always hang on about. It's just a March sport right now. Now, this year, and aren't they talking about this as a one-year only thing? Maybe
Yes.
not. But, maybe as a gimmick this year, I'd be okay with it. It's not like I'm going to be transfixed on it during their meaningless regular season anyway. Just makes it more meaningless. Makes it a joke, but I'm not paying attention to it anyways, regular season.
Well, I know it just sounds crazy for potentially like 300 teams in a basketball tournament. I'm not quite sure how you do that.
I saw one, and I haven't read it, but I saw somebody said it's not feasible at all, but I don't know.
I think all bets are off for 2020.
Yeah, pretty much. This is the experimental year. Bill, thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Bill.
You got it. Bill King, Nashville Sports Radio.